Since you've landed on this video, I'm guessing you've kind of figured out that Blanchard, Oklahoma is kind of a cool town. So let's dive in and talk about the pros and cons. So Blanchard, Oklahoma is one of those small towns that has excellent amenities, excellent roads, some really nice, cool new houses, some really cool older houses. So it's just a cool town. Here's the thing, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't live in Blanchard. I never have, I probably never will, but I have some experience because I am a real estate agent and I do work selling homes, helping people buy homes in Blanchard, Oklahoma. So everything I'm gonna give you here is just my general understanding of the area. I'm sure if you live in Blanchard, you have some other understandings. I would love to hear them in the comments. So I'm Marcie Billen, I'm a real estate agent and I work in the Oklahoma City Metro, and I actually live in Norman, which is really close to Blanchard. So each aspect that I address here, I'm gonna kind of talk about the pros and cons, like why it would be a pro to you and why it might be a con to you for each specific thing. I'll just present your choices and then you can decide. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna talk about is Blanchards proximity to Oklahoma City and really Norman as well. So Norman is its own kind of metropolitan area in its own right. It offers a lot of job opportunity and a lot of activities. And of course, you know that Oklahoma City is a bustling city, one of the fastest growing cities in the entire nation. So why do people like Blanchard? Because of its proximity. Because you look on the map and you're like, oh, it's kind of far, So it has really good roads. The roads to Oklahoma City and to Norman are excellent because they're really not usually very busy. Sometimes they can get backed up, especially the road to Oklahoma City, but the road to Norman, I've rarely seen it backed up. So the highway that you would typically take to get from Norman to Blanchard are Highway 9 and Highway 62. On these stretches of road, there's really very few stoplights. The roads are in pretty good condition and there's just not that many cars. Now to get to Oklahoma City, it would be different. You would actually take Highway 62 and Highway 44, or Interstate 44. So drive time to the middle of Blanchard to Norman Center would be anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes. And of course, if you're on the outskirts of that, it's gonna take less time, depending on where you are, because both the towns are pretty big. For a good comparison, to get from the middle of Blanchard to the middle of Oklahoma City, which I just did like around Devon Tower, which is downtown Oklahoma City, it's gonna take between like 25 and 50 minutes. It's a bit more trafficy on those roads. So like I said, these drives are often a pro for people because it's kind of far, it can feel kind of far. And if you wanna live in the country, if you want that rural feel, then you may wanna live in Blanchard if you're traveling to either Norman or Oklahoma City. And I didn't talk about Moore at all, but Moore is definitely a contender. It's between Norman and Oklahoma City. Okay, so the next pro that we're gonna talk about is land availability. So Blanchard's a rural place, like it's rural. You drive and you see open spaces of land. That is how it is there. So we see a lot of new homes that are being built on like half acre to 1 acre lots. Sometimes I see up to 5 acres or 10 acres. It kind of depends on the neighborhood and how they had to split it up. You can also buy larger tracts of land in Blanchard, like 100 acres, 200 acres, 500 acres. So land is that thing that nobody can make any more of. I mean, with like the exception of like the Netherlands and, the UAE, but that's a whole other story, right? What I also see in Blanchard is there's a lot of surrounding towns that are pretty small that have a lot of land available, and I see people moving to those areas or buying land in those areas. So these areas might not be called Blanchard necessarily, but they are very close to Blanchard. So land availability may be a pro for you if you're looking for land, but maybe you need to work in Oklahoma City or you just want to be close to a big metropolitan area. And I said I would talk about cons too. If you don't want the open rolling plains of Oklahoma, if you don't want to live in that, then don't move to Blanchard. Next is population. So at this time of filming, Blanchard's population sits right around 10,000. To give you a little idea of like other towns, Norman is around 125,000. So that small town feel is really apparent in that 10,000 number, right? So Blanchard's a rural community, and that 10,000 number, that kind of gives you that feeling of the ruralness, okay? So when I think about rural, and I'm from a rural area, a town a little bit bigger than Blanchard, I think about seeing more open land than I see houses or neighborhoods or commercial areas. I think about seeing crops, I think about seeing hay fields, beef cattle ranches, horse ranches. That's what I think of when I think of rural. Maybe you do too. Hopefully you do, because that's what rural is. Another thing about a rural town is, you feel like you can't go into town without seeing someone you know. That's what Blanchard feels like. So if rural is what you are looking for, then I would say you need to take a look at Blanchard. And I dare you to say rural 10 times fast, because it's not easy. Okay. So as I mentioned, new homes. I talked about it a couple times already. Blanchard has a lot of land available, so there are a lot of new homes in this area. So there are new homes being built, and there's also like newer homes that are being bought and sold as well. So some of these neighborhoods where, homes built that are maybe 5-10 years old, some of those areas are like Oasis Ranch, West End Estates, Fox Run. We have Silo Acres. There's Four Lakes, which are a little bit older houses, but there's lots of opportunity here. Something I didn't mention that I should is that Blanchard is located in 2 counties. It's located in McLean County and Grady County. I mentioned new homes as a pro because a lot of my buyers do end up wanting a new home. And if you want to live in the country and you want a new home, then Blanchard may be one of those areas. So if you are interested in Blanchard, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about it, I do have a relocation guide that you can download, and that is linked in the description below. Okay, so restaurants and shopping. This one might be a little bit more of a con, but it just totally depends on your definition of a pro and con in this situation. So for a kind of a small town, Blanchard's a small town, it does actually have a good amount of shopping and restaurants, or what I think is a good amount. You may have a different opinion. A lot of these restaurants are local as well, so they're not like big chains. Of course, they have like the McDonald's and Sonic and all that fun stuff, but there's other ones as well. For shopping, particularly grocery shopping, there are only a couple of options, which brings me to the subject of Tri-City. So Tri-City is an area that includes Blanchard, Newcastle, and Tuttle. And they have kind of a shopping center. It's in Newcastle, so it's not super far, but the shopping area includes like a Walmart, a Walgreens. There's definitely like some fast food stuff right there, and Brahms, of course. And then there's a gym there. Yeah, there's everything that you could kind of need, and you don't have to go into, let's say, Norman or Oklahoma City. So really fun fact, I took cover for the 2013 Moore tornado at that Newcastle Walmart because I worked right across the street. Weird, right? Thanks so much for watching, and you might want to watch this video next.